All right, welcome everyone. We were all just checking in on this kind of wintry night. It's almost the winter solstice here in North America, and we are going to honor that time with pine trees tonight. And Alex is presenting our pine tree information. So I will hand it over to him. Are you ready?
Well, sure. I think you're probably going to read
Oh,
the
yeah, I'll
eight
probably read
verses
the eight
before
verses
we get
first.
started. So really earnest.
I'll hand it back to myself temporarily. Okay. All right, I will share screen. There we go. Hmm. So we will settle in for Dr. Peng's eight verses. Oops. There we go. So find your comfortable Qigong meditation posture. You're probably seated, so feeling the sits bones sink into the surface beneath, straightening the spine, tucking the chin, and lifting the crown of the head up toward the sky. So head touches sky, feet stand on earth, body relaxes, and the mind expands. Be respectful and quiet. Mind is clear and appearance is humble. No distracting thoughts. Mind expands into infinite space. Feel the mind shining into the body, deeply and inwardly. Entire body is harmonized with chi, harmonized with chi.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. So I thought we'd always start out, usually with a boring science slide. So I wanted to do the pine family of trees, the whole family. Although I think most of us are probably most familiar with true pines, but there's a whole bunch of other trees in this group: firs, spruces, Douglas firs, and so on. And even some that are maybe less common that you may not know about, like larch, golden larch, dawn redwood. Some of these are actually even deciduous, as we'll see. So the pine family of trees, also I think it's Pinaceae. These are a group of predominantly cone-bearing evergreen trees and shrubs. These represent the largest family of conifers. They encompass about 11 genera and 220 to 250 species. They're always kind of arguing over how to classify various species and such. But I'll go to the next slide here. These trees are characterized by their needle-like or scale-like leaves, with woody cones for reproduction and the ability to thrive in colder climates. While most of them are evergreen, there are some, like larches and dawn redwoods, that are deciduous, which we've pictured here as well. They play a dominant role in northern hemisphere forests, particularly the boreal, also coastal and mountain ecosystems. Pines have been central to human economies and cultures for millennia, providing timber for construction, resin for turpentine and pitch, and paper pulp. They also hold deep cultural ties in places with cold climates, especially in folklore and seasonal traditions. Now, Pinaceae are primarily distributed across the northern hemisphere, thriving in temperate to subarctic climates, with extensions even into tropical highlands. In North America, they span all the way from Alaska down to Mexico, and in Eurasia, from Scandinavia to the Himalayas and Japan. Pines are most abundant in the northern hemisphere's boreal forest, which is the largest terrestrial biome. Many species are adapted to specific environments, with Pinus mercusi being the only one which crosses the equator into the southern hemisphere, specifically in Southeast Asia. Pines move very slowly, but they can outrun a glacier. They've adapted over millennia to migrate or shift their geographic range through adaptations like cold tolerance and seed dispersal to avoid advancing and retreating glaciers during ice age cycles. This is why they're so extra hardy for cold environments. As glaciers retreated after the last glacial maximum around 21,000 years ago, these trees were able to more quickly recolonize vast areas northward and upslope across the northern hemisphere. This is why you see so many of them at high elevations and in places like the boreal forest today. Now, pine trees are mostly monoecious, and this means that they have separate male and female cones, but they grow on the same plant. They're wind pollinated for the most part. The smaller male cones produce pollen, which is released in large quantities to reach the larger female cones. Now, female cones are 2 to 10 times as large as male cones and contain ovules that develop eggs. After pollination, fertilization forms a seed. However, some pines rely on birds or rodents for dispersal. Typical reproduction cycles do vary, around 1 year in firs and spruces, but up to 2 to 3 years in many other pines from pollination to seed maturity. There's also a much longer cycle, like a deep cycle, that's called masting. And this occurs on intervals between 5 and 7 years, or even up to 10 years in some warmer climates, where there's significantly increased pollen production. This event actually occurred here in the Ozarks this past year, this past summer. We had this thick coat of yellow pollen on everything. It was crazy. So yes, this happens every, decade or so. And mass seeding is when, an entire forest or region of pines basically synchronizes to produce a massive boom and bust quantity of seeds. So they all pollinate at the same time. They put out a massive amount. And they're still not really sure how this sort of synchronization happens. Some of it has to do with triggers, environmental triggers, but there's clearly some sort of communication taking place that they don't fully understand, which is pretty crazy. Um, we will go to the next slide here. We're moving into the medicine part. So I want to talk a little bit about medicine because it's pretty interesting. Every single part of the pine tree has been used medicinally in traditional medicine across the world. Pine needles themselves are very rich in vitamin C and were used very widely to help prevent scurvy, as well as for expectorant effects. These expectorant effects were known and practiced across the world. It was brewed as a tea and also inhaled as a smoke to treat cough and congestion, even asthma. Certain Native American tribes also used smoke in ghost medicine or to ward off evil spirits. Now, the resin from pine is a very strong antimicrobial substance. It was used in the Americas to make salves for the treatments of splinters, boils, wounds, or insect bites in Europe. Turpentine, which is made from distilled resin, was used to treat a variety of wounds, rheumatism, sore muscles, even lice. And in traditional Chinese medicine, resin was used for skin conditions, also for fatigue, and as a general rejuvenator. This is usually when they applied it topically to the chest, almost like we do with like Vicks VapoRub today. Okay, so the inner bark of a pine can actually be consumed as an emergency food in the wintertime. This is something that was practiced in the Americas. Also, it can be used to make a poultice and also protective bandages, especially for burns. Okay, and in Europe, it was used to treat varicose veins, also burns, and they made a sedative out of it. In traditional Chinese medicine, they did wood infusions. This was often soaked in wine and used for joint pain, also as an antiseptic. In traditional Chinese medicine, the pollen from the pine tree is used in a longevity tonic. This was believed to nourish the heart and lung qi, replenish Jing essence, support vitality, and reduce inflammation. Pine trees are also popular ornamentals in seasonal decorations, also in year-round gardens and bonsai, with certain species like the Japanese black pine, which were bred specifically for this purpose in their unique forms. Pine trees and other conifers are strongly tied to traditional winter solstice celebrations around the globe. This is kind of crazy because there's like a lot of commonalities, even in like from North America to Europe, Eurasia, even places like the Middle East. It's really interesting, to read about some of the similarities. And we've got a story coming up. I'll share a story soon, and it's what's unique about this story is that it shows up in all kinds of places, little variations, of course, but there's such a common story there that it seems like there must have been there must have been more contact between the continents than we're currently aware of. It just seems like. But anyways, let's see. Oh yeah, the winter solstice celebrations. Let me give you some examples of some of the ways that it shows up in ancient myth and tradition. So in ancient Greek mythology, pines are linked to the nymph Pitys, who was pursued by the gods Pan and Boreas. She was tragically killed by Boreas, and Pan subsequently honors her by transforming her into a pine tree, and forever after wearing a crown of pine tree branches and needles upon his head. The sighing or weeping sound of the wind through the pines in the forest is said to be the eternal melancholic sorrow of a lost or unfulfilled love. Greeks would similarly don a crown of needles to ward off the anger of the god Boreas, who brought the fierce north winds during the winter solstice celebrations. In Celtic lore, pines symbolize wisdom and protection and are associated with Cailleach, goddess of winter and rebirth. The Celts, Druids, even pagans as far east as Germany and Eastern Europe, decorated with fir branches during solstice, a very common practice. These were viewed as symbols of hope, everlasting life, and the promise of the sun's return after winter. Romans also decorated with bows during Saturnalia. Evergreen bows also appear in Norse mythology, linking pine needles to divine favor and persistence of life. During Yule in Scandinavia, the Norse midwinter feast, evergreens, including pine branches, spruce, and fir, were brought indoors to symbolize enduring life amid winter's darkness and to ward off evil spirits. This is also a symbol of the cycle of life and death itself, the death each year of the winter king and the rebirth of the sun king. These ancient traditions were precursors to more modern ones, which were also influenced by later Christian theology, as well as later German practices, for example, decorating indoor trees with candles and ornaments. And then we've got some photos here. The one on the far left is actually our tree, sitting out in our living room right now. I think the one next to that is my sister-in-law's, and then we've got that one was like more traditional, like German style with the candles on it. We just found that stock photo online, then we've got my parents' tree in the lower right corner there as well. Okay, yeah, that's what I had to share on those topics. I've got this story that I wanted to share. Now, the story is extremely interesting because some version of this story appears all across the Northern Hemisphere and in multiple continents. The Native American tribes had one that was very similar to this. The telling that I'm using is actually from Scandinavia, but the Germans had it, the Russians had it, even shows up in the Middle East. So it goes like this. Long ago, when the world was still young, the Frost King called all the trees and plants together. I wish to give each of you a very special gift, the king said. But first you must prove yourselves worthy. Stay awake and watchful for 7 full nights, guarding the forest through the cold and the dark. The trees agreed, proud and eager. On the first night, many stayed alert. By the third night, some began to doze, and by the fifth, most had fallen into a deep sleep, their branches heavy with exhaustion. But a few remained awake through all 7 nights. The mighty cedar, the sturdy spruce, the resilient holly, the graceful laurel, and the humble pine. As winter deepened, a tiny sparrow injured its wing and could not fly south with the other birds. Cold, hungry, and alone, it hopped through the snow, begging the sleeping trees for shelter. It pleaded with the proud oak, "Please let me rest in your strong branches until spring." But the oak, dreaming deeply, turned away. The sparrow asked the maple, the birch, the willow. Each refused, too lost in their own slumber. Finally, with no hope left, the little sparrow approached the pine. "My needles are sharp and my branches are thin," the pine said humbly. "I am the least of the trees, and I have little to offer. But what I do have is yours. Come, shelter here and be warm." So the sparrow nestled safely among the pine's needles, protected from the wind and snow through the long winter. Before he departed, as spring arrived, the Frost King gathered the trees once more. The punishment and reward were declared. To those who slept and refused aid to the needy sparrow, you shall lose your leaves each winter and stand bare in the cold, as a reminder of your selfishness. But to the pine and the other faithful evergreens, because you stayed awake, as I asked, and because you shared your humble shelter with one in need, even though you thought you had little to give, you shall keep your green needles forever. You will stand as guardians of the forest, offering life and protection even in the darkest, coldest times. And so to this day, the pine tree remains evergreen, a symbol of generosity, enduring strength, and the promise that kindness, no matter how small, brings eternal reward. Right. So that's our story. And like I said, there's some version of this with little variations. Sometimes it's a redbird, sometimes it's a sparrow. Kind of probably depends on the birds that were local to the area. Sometimes it's a frost king or the north wind is personified in some way, or it's the creator, the great creator. But they all kind of flow the same way, which I found fascinating, and for it to show up across continents like that. All right, so the next few slides here, I thought we'd just go through and let the images here just sink into our bones a little bit. We can spend some time with the pine trees. I think most of these photos we either took ourselves. This one was actually from a friend of Elizabeth's mom who lives in Alaska still. That's where they're from. And they took this picture of the Northern Lights recently and then sent it to us. So I thought I'd share it because it is beautiful to feature those as well. And of course, it goes so well with the pine. And then most of the rest of them following here are going to be from our own property. It's actually one of the reasons I bought this property because when we were touring all the various places, we saw these pines and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the place. I think this is the last slide, and that's the cover of that journal that we mentioned at the beginning. Suan shared with us.
And there's a heart.
Oh, yes, and Elizabeth pointed out there's a heart in the opening of these trees here, sort of sideways.
It looks like a baby heart nestled in the pine branches.
Yeah, she loves that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, well, thank you everyone for joining us for this lovely presentation tonight. I'm just going to open the floor and
Should we stop share?
yeah, go ahead and stop share.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Ah, pine trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, the pines here are just so lovely. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know you could make that effect. That's cool. I mean, it was definitely one of the top reasons. I mean, we like the house too. Obviously, we looked at a lot of different houses before we finally picked one, but the pines on this property were really what clinched it for me. It's just like, wow, this is so gorgeous. It's not usual to see that. I mean, they are native to the region, the short needle pine, but um, it's not a very common thing to have on your property. They were logged almost to extinction, and then the Forest Service repopulated a little bit and have been planting. And that's where these actually came from. It was planted by the Forest Service some decades ago.
Like
But
in the 70s or something.
yeah, it was a while back. But yeah, they're just so beautiful and majestic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if anyone has anything they'd like to share, please feel free to jump in. Yeah. Gary?
Alex, thank you for the presentation. Karen and I escaped California in '85 and moved to Colorado, and our first house was in a pine forest.
Beautiful.
And we lived there how many years? I can't remember. And all of a sudden, I could stand on my deck and ask my neighbor what he was cooking for dinner. So we moved further out into that forest. And we've had several places where we have really enjoyed living in pine forest. And I think initially I was a little allergic to pine tree pollen. It used to cover the second house we had in the forest. The deck would get covered with the yellow pollen. And I think I developed a resistance to the allergy, so I don't get it anymore, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then some of the properties we've have had large ponderosas on it, and like right now off my deck is a good sized ponderosa. And but anyway, enough of that. Thank you, and we love the forest.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah. And to all the pine forests and all of your years living in pine forests and bringing that here with us tonight. Thank you. Hello. Mm. Mm. Mm.
I have a question. I don't remember seeing, and it might have been on the list, a hemlock, because that's on the list? Okay.
Yep.
Because it's a sad situation here. When I first moved here 20 years ago, a magnificent hemlock forest, and just just driving up the driveway and seeing this whole glen of hemlocks, and they're all dying of that disease that's been attacking them. And but I still I love them. The bottoms are now don't have the greenery, but there's still greenery on the top. And I have had two experiences with pines. Um, I live kind of on a cliff. I live on a cliff that drops about 500 feet, and I was just so in awe of this 90-foot pine that was growing right on the edges of the cliff, and I made my little meditation space right next to that. And about a year after that, after we moved here, I was standing in my house watching this spectacular lightning storm with lightning going in all directions. And all of a sudden, I saw the lightning hit that 90-foot pine. The hair on my arms stood up on end, and my telephone rang, and it exploded. It boiled the pitch inside the tree, and I was in shock, and I called my neighbor and I said, "Did you try to call me?" He said, "No, did you try to call me? My phone just rang." And I said, "Yeah, mine did too." So what had happened was, and I saw it because all the roots were also exploded on my land coming towards the house, and that electrical current came, and I have a big post in this that holds this whole house up. It's like an umbrella house, and sparks had come out of the top of that metal post. And I was lucky I was standing on the wood floor and not on the ceramic floor next to that post. Because it came right into the house, and it was really, I was devastated to lose that tree. And then my next one was we planted a Japanese pine, and this was many years later, in the front yard, and I love this pine. It was just doing so well. It was so beautiful. Had huge pine cones on it. And one day I came home, and the whole main trunk had been broken off, and it was laying about 20 feet from the tree. And I just knew that it was a bear climbed up for the pine cones. Took it over. But I just kept loving it, and now one of the branches has grown up, and it looks like it's taken the place of the original one. It happened a second time, but not to the same place. Another bear got another branch another year, but the last, I would say, 8 or 9 years, it's been free of injuries from bears. So those are my pines, my pines.
Thank you, Suhan. Those are very powerful stories. Yeah. Yeah, I have heard about bears eating pine nuts. Yeah, so I had not heard about lightning exploding a pine tree. That is, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was really, it took me a while to get over that experience. So I didn't know that either. I didn't know that lightning hitting a pine tree would explode it and explode all of its roots. I mean, it like went right through the whole being of the tree. There was no way to save the tree. It was, so it was like a lightning rod. Maybe it saved the house and me. It's possible.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta wonder. Yeah, thank you. Hello. Hello. Oh, yeah. I'm just letting that sit with me. That's a really significant experience, and I can't imagine witnessing that.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah, it's like out of time, I would imagine. Mm.
I like the connection between Swan's story and the pineal gland and enlightenment aspect of pine trees, right? So right, our pineal gland looks like a pine cone,
Hmm.
and you'll see the top of staff. I think even the Pope's staff has a pine cone on top of it. I know there's a pine cone outside of the Vatican, and I know Dionysus has pine cone imagery also. And I remember Swan, maybe it was last year, you shared some interesting information about pine trees and the shape of pine trees. And anyhow, how I always think of them when I think of enlightenment or connecting with my pineal gland in, our N practice. But that's pretty intense to have the whole tree blow up in a light. I mean, that's like enlightenment, right? Enlightening, Ben said. Yeah.
Uh,
But I loved your presentation, Alex. I'm so grateful you put it together. And I had never thought about the protective aspect of evergreen trees and how, yeah, if you're in a forest and all the trees have no leaves, that's no place for life in the winter. Um, and in a pine forest in the winter, it's cozy even a little bit even. There's so many nooks and crannies that animals can be in. And I have memories of snowshoeing in pine forest in the winter with snow, and there's lots of life, right? And it wouldn't be there without the pine trees.
And it's a windbreak too, which is really nice.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, windbreak, and it protect, you can stay underneath them and get protected from the elements. And yeah, I hadn't thought of it. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And pine nuts are one of my favorite foods, so I'm also appreciative of pine trees for that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, when we were in Tahoe a couple years ago, the type of trees had pine nuts that we could eat. Um,
Wow.
and I was so delighted to, just they were all over. I mean, the whole forest floor was covered in these little, I mean, it's just like what you showed, little seed, the little feather or wing on top of it. Um, and inside were delicious pine nuts, just like you buy at the store. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, I was also just going to say one other thing that when I think of pine trees I have connections with, or I don't know if they're pine trees, but I grew up and my mom still has these two Dawn redwoods that she planted at my childhood home. And they really are spectacular. I know briefly that the story is that they thought that they were extinct and they're deciduous redwood trees, so they lose their leaves and beautiful they're so beautiful, these trees. Anyhow, my mom planted two, and right, they discovered that they hadn't gone extinct, and it was kind of this huge discovery that happened not super long ago. They found some still growing in China, and they're really special. Yeah. And it is weird to see them lose their leaves because, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I love that pineal gland pine cone. Whenever we go on our walks, because we have pine cones all over, which you can probably imagine. I'm always reminded of that, and I just imagine a little pine cone
Yeah.
in my head. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and pine nuts and yeah, all of that. Thank you.
Make good fire starters.
Yes, fire starters. Yep.
Yeah. And puppy toys.
And oh, the dogs love they're a little destructive with the downed boughs, but they love to just all the pine boughs that fall from windstorms and things. Yeah, the puppies love to
Crunch them
play,
up, pull them apart.
pull them
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you. Mm. Well, we can move into bringing friends and family, community members into the field if we're ready.
I'd like to bring a family into the field that are very good friends of ours that have had some a surgery, accidents just very recently. And Bill, Maria, Larry, Marcus, and
Ella.
Ella. And also my friends Jane and Laura.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, Karen. We're bringing all of them into the field. Mm. And accidents. We'll just hold accidents in the field because they have such a presence.
Mm.
So we'll add accidents.
I want to bring my siblings and family into the field. We heard this weekend that my uncle, who was a priest and very dear to us, as they were reporting on the allegations of sexual abuse of all the priests in the diocese, there was an allegation on him, and it's just ripped the heart out of some of the people in my family. So we can hold Ed and Millie especially, and just everybody who's dealing with past or present abuse or allegations. Just hold them.
Yeah. Thank you, Angie. Yeah, we're bringing this field to any and all allegations or anything related to abuse. And we're connecting our baby hearts. We're growing our capacity as we face things, especially when they surface unexpectedly and with shock. We just hold that together. And we give ourselves grace and all the space we need. Howla. Howla. Thanks. Mm.
You see.
Yeah.
I guess our list was so long that we forgot our daughter, who had
She had rotator cuff surgery yesterday.
yesterday.
So we'd like to put her in the field.
We're holding her in the field and her rotator cuff. A gentle and complete healing. Thank you. I'm going to bring Robin and Craig. They are on their way to Antarctica right now, in Buenos Aires as we speak, or en route to Buenos Aires. And Robin also shared, related to pines in their town, they had very extreme weather, wind and flooding, and many pines were harmed in the weather. So given our exploration of pine trees and pine trees in our beautiful field, we're just holding all of the pine trees that have, like Suan's pine tree, all of the pine trees that have ceased, and the power that they bring past, present, future pine trees, just all of them. And the people who witness the pines fall or explosion. It's a significant relationship we have with pine trees. So I just want to bring that into the field and honor it and honor all of our lived experiences with the pines in our lives. Yeah, thank you.
I want to bring Donna Gustin and her husband Daryl and family into the field. They live in Washington State, and their house was flooded in the basement significantly, and Donna's she's not feeling well right now, and I think part of it was the shock of all of the flooding and everything. So bringing them in for beautiful sunny skies and a period of being able to let the waters recede and bring balance back.
Thank you, Sunil. Sunny skies, water receding, and balance. Right. We bring all of this sharing, all of these loved ones in the field, all of the pine trees, and we'll move into our formal meditation. So find your comfortable posture, seated, standing, or laying down. And just get cozy, warm, comfortable, and take a few deep breaths. Oh, you may even want to let them out audibly. Oh, with a big sigh, kind of like pine branches sighing under the weight of snow. Oh. And feeling the lower body, the sits bones, the bottoms of the feet, the legs all stretching, expanding into the surface beneath. Feeling our own roots reaching through the cold winter surface of the earth, going all the way through down into the heat of the molten core. Feeling ourselves connected and supported. A strong, healthy root system. And feeling Earth's energy flow up through all those strong, healthy roots. And allowing that energy to nourish us. And merging in through the lower body, up through the spine, our own strong, straight trunk. And feeling the crown of the head, the chin tuck, crown lifting. Feeling ourselves rise up to the sky. We can imagine a clear blue sky or a starry, dark winter sky, whatever resonates right now. And just lengthening and feeling that heavenly energy from the sky flowing in through the crown, merging with the earth energy, allowing the energies to become one. We can invite our awareness to flow into the center of the head, observing our own pineal pine cone. Perfect. Perfect and healthy, nestled in the center of the head. And our pure, clear awareness can rest in the center of the head. Mm. Mm. And the head inner space softens and opens as our awareness expands out from the center, filling all the cells, the entire head inner space, and the sense organs, the eyes, nose, mouth and jaw, ears, all softening, relaxing as we gaze with this peaceful awareness. And we can invite this peaceful awareness to flow from the head into the neck, bringing that same soft gaze. Mm. Mm. The neck relaxes and opens, bringing ease. Mm. And this peaceful gaze moves into the shoulders, and the arms, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, and hands. Noticing any weight we carry in the shoulders and arms, and inviting it to soften. Mm. Mm. To relax and open. This peaceful awareness can flow into our chest. We can smile at our beautiful baby hearts, imagining them nestled in pine boughs, snug, warm, safe. Mm. Mm. We can gaze at our lungs, our precious lungs breathing the cool, crisp air of winter. Mm. Fresh and clear, receiving and releasing. Mm. Mm. When we gaze at the entirety of the chest, the breasts, all the tissues and inner spaces, when we gaze at any hurts, any sadnesses held in the chest, we smile and we breathe. Mm. Mm. We invite the chest inner space to soften and relax. Mm. This peaceful awareness moves into the abdomen, observing all of our beautiful organs, the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, pancreas, and the spleen. Mm. Mm. Moving into the intestines, the kidneys, beautiful kidneys, adrenal glands, the bladder. Mm. Mm. All of our reproductive organs. Mm. Mm. We smile at this family of organs, softening, and relaxing. Mm. Our awareness flows from the abdomen into the spine. Our healthy, supple spines. Mm. Bringing that peaceful awareness to the neck, the upper back, the middle back, the low back, and the tailbone. Mm. Mm. Feeling our spine long and strong between the earth and the heaven. Mm. Mm. And our awareness can ease from this relaxed spine and flow into the hips. Our hips rooted to the surface beneath us, moving into the legs, the thighs, the knees, calves, ankles, and feet. The lower body strong, grounded. Mm. Mm. In this place of groundedness, the lower body relaxes, softens, and opens. Any tension, any pain dissolves, eases. Mm. We bring this peaceful awareness to flow into our entirety, our chi entirety, our body entirety, all softening, merging. Mm. Mm. Peaceful awareness gazes at our wholeness, brings that gentle, loving smile. Observing ourselves just as we are, and also bringing that gentle invitation to relax, to open to what's present, and to open to this healing consciousness field. When we soften into this shared space, this shared space of peace, love, happiness, and gratitude. And we thank our community, our teachers, Dr. Pong, Teacher Wei. Thank all the healers, all practitioners, and wisdom traditions through all time and space. We honor this dark time of year, the coming solstice, and the offering of the pine tree. We can check in and stay in this formal healing field if that feels right for this moment. Just releasing whenever the time arrives. Or we can allow our peaceful awareness to flow into our embodied experience, feeling the air around us, noticing any light coming through our eyelids, hearing any sounds, and allowing our time together, our intentions for healing for ourselves and all our community members to sink into our bodies, into ourselves. And we bring these gentle intentions into our night and into our days. You can stack the hands palm over the navel, integrating our experience together, integrating the field, taking a few deep breaths. Releasing the hands, gently moving the body, returning fully to the space we're in. Mm. Mm. Opening the eyes whenever they are ready. Thank you, everyone. Mm.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Elizabeth. Thank you, Alex.
You, Alex and Elizabeth. It was so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Lovely.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Yeah,
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And have beautiful nights.
And thank you to the pine trees.
Yes, I know the pine trees that, yeah, thank you. I feel like they'll be holding us in our sleep tonight, like the little sparrow. All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.